Right now, draped over the back of my workbench here in Okinawa, there is an apron that does not look like anything you could buy in a store. It is built from perhaps 11 different pieces of denim, the knees of a work pant my son wore through 30 years ago, a pocket from a jacket my wife retired, a wide patch of indigo so faded it has gone the color of the evening sky, all of it stitched together in small, careful rows that cross and cross again, layer upon layer, until the cloth is thicker and stronger than anything that ever left a factory hole. I have worn some version of this apron, growing and changing under my hands for over 20 years. It has never once been thrown away. It has only ever been added to. Today, I am going to show you the old Japanese way of turning worn-out denim, the jeans with the blown knee, the jacket gone thin at the elbow, into the toughest tool rolls and work aprons you will ever own, using a tradition 400 years old that most of the world has never heard of, and that costs you almost nothing but a needle and an evening. My name is Kenji Takara. I am 81 years old, and I have lived my whole life on the island of Okinawa, that museums in Tokyo and Paris and New York now display them behind glass. In the villages of my childhood, my grandmother would have laughed at that. In a poor farming family, to her, it was simply what you did on a cold evening when a knee had worn through and there was work to do tomorrow. Weeks to spin before I show you how, and let me tell you the part that should make you a little angry. Threw a worn garment away in your closet right now. A single sound thread, the denim jacket in the back of the wardrobe. My grandmother and the women of our village cotton twill is something without question Boro, one of the toughest common fabrics ever made by human hands. Patching worn indigo cloth with other scraps of for miners and railwaymen, stitching to resist tearing under hand-running stitches, and yet the moment a knee blows out, after layer, or a seam gives way after year, the modern habit is to fold the whole garment into a bag for 3 generations of a family while acres of that same tough, still strong cloth, the thighs, the back panel, the unworn arm of a jacket, go into the ground with it. Meanwhile, walk into any farm store or outfitter and look at what they charge for a canvas tool roll. $30, $40, $50 of fabric no stronger than what you just threw away. A heavy work apron, the leather look canvas kind, another $40 or $50. They are, in truth, selling you back a lesser version of the very material sitting folded in your donation bag right now. Because a torn pair of jeans is worth nothing to them unless you buy new cloth to replace it. There is no profit in a customer who mends. So the mending was allowed to be forgotten, one generation at a time, until people came to believe that a hole in the knee is a death sentence for the whole garment. Now, here is where almost everyone goes wrong when they first try to work with old denim, and if you do not understand this, your tool roll will fall apart at the first hard use, and you will say the old ways do not hold up to real work. Most people, when they try to reuse old jeans, cut out one thin single layer and sew it as is. And that single layer, however tough it once was, has already been weakened exactly where you need it most. Along the worn seams, the faded stress points, the places the fabric has been quietly thinning for years before it finally gave way. A single layer of tired denim is still tired denim. The secret of Boro, and the whole reason it produces cloth stronger than new, is that it is never built from a single layer. It is built from many. 2, 3, even 4 layers of old denim, stacked and stitched together with row upon row of small running stitches, do not simply add their strength. They multiply it, the stitching itself becoming a kind of woven reinforcement, so that the finished cloth resists tearing, puncturing, and wear far better than the single new layer it was made to replace. This is not folk sentiment. It is simple structural truth. So let us begin with the simplest work coats, the one that will teach your hands the whole Japanese farm labor. The rolled you are not tool patching pouch. A weakness. First, you are building something denim. New and stronger. Old jeans from are pieces the world source. Called cut finished. Away the waistband and any zippers or rivets you do not want. And you will find that a single pair yields a remarkable amount of good flat cloth. The 2 front leg panels, the 2 back panels, and, do not discard these, the back pockets, which are already sewn pouches, ready-made. A worn jacket gives you its back panel, its sleeves, its own pockets. Lay everything flat and cut away only the truly ruined parts, the blown knee itself, a deeply frayed hem, and keep everything else, however faded or odd-shaped, in a growing pile. This pile is your fabric store, and it has already been paid for. Second, choose your base layer, the largest sound piece you have, ideally a full back panel or a wide thigh section, big enough to lay your hand tools upon with room to spare and fold closed. Lay that base piece flat on your table, and this is where the Boro method truly begins. Onto it, you layer a second piece of denim, from another old garment entirely, mismatched in color if you like, for the old Boro makers never worried about matching, only about strength, covering the same area or covering just the sections that will take the hardest wear. If you have a third scrap that fits, add it too, especially over the section where the heaviest tools will rest. You are building a sandwich of cloth, 2 or 3 layers thick, and now we bind it all together with the stitch that makes it strong. Sashiko, the simple running stitch, worked in straight or gently curving rows across the whole layered piece, spaced perhaps a thumb's width apart, row after row, like plowed furrows in a field. You need only a few things to do this, and none of them cost much. A sturdy hand-sewing needle, a heavier one made for denim or upholstery work, sews far more easily than a fine needle and costs only $1 or $2. Strong thread, heavy-duty polyester or cotton thread from any fabric or hardware store, $3 or $4 a spool and enough for a dozen projects. The traditional sashiko thread is a beautiful thick cotton if you can find it, but ordinary heavy thread serves the purpose honestly, and that is nearly the whole of your tool list. No machine is required, though if you own one, it will only hurry along what your own 2 hands can do just as well in the quiet of an evening. The stitch itself could not be simpler, and this is the gift of sashiko to a beginner. It is only the running stitch every child is taught, done patiently and evenly. Thread your needle with a length about as long as your arm, not the end. Push the needle down through all your layers, then up again a short distance away, a stitch length about as wide as a grain of rice, and continue down, up, in a straight line, gathering 2 or 3 stitches onto the needle at once as your hand finds its rhythm, the way my grandmothers always did. When you reach the end of a row, turn and start the next, a thumb's width over, running parallel to the first. Do this across the whole layered piece, 10 rows, 20, as many as the piece calls for, and something remarkable happens as you work. The many small stitches, crossing through every layer again and again, begin to fuse the loose stack of cloth into a single, dense, quilted material, stiff enough to stand up on its own, strong enough to resist a screwdriver point pressed hard against it. This reinforced cloth is now ready to become nearly anything. For the tool roll, take your finished layered panel, roughly the size of a placemat, or larger for more tools, and along one long edge, stitch on a row of pockets, strips of denim, folded and sewn into simple open-topped sleeves of varying widths, Stitch down at their base and sides to the main panel, space to hold a screwdriver here, a chisel there, pliers in a wider pocket beside them. A ready-made back pocket, cut whole from an old pair of jeans, makes a perfect pouch for smaller items. Simply stitch it flat onto your panel exactly as it already sits, and you have a finished pocket in 30 seconds of sewing rather than 30 minutes. Once your pockets are attached and your tools laid in their places, roll the whole panel up from one end like a sleeping mat and tie it closed with a length of sturdy cord or an old belt stitched to one end. Your tools travel silent, protected, organized, and visible at a glance the moment you unroll it on the tailgate or the workbench. A store-bought version of exactly this sells for $40. Yours cost a needle, a spool of thread, and an evening by the lamp. Now, the work apron, cut it to an apron a larger shape, project, wide across from the very same understanding, or shaping simply toward given the hem, a different shape, depending on how far begin down again your legs with your largest, reach. Soundest knee height is traditional as the body, and practical for the garden panel and shed of an old pair of overalls, where the original fabric is often thin ideal, from wear. Already layer a second strap behind it in exactly the Boro way, and stitch the two together with your sashiko rows across the whole body of the apron, not only for strength, though it gives that generously, but because those close, even rows of stitching are what keep 2 layers of heavy cloth from shifting and bunching as you move, wash, and wear the finished piece for years. For the straps, denim leg panels cut into long strips, folded in thirds lengthwise, and stitched down both edges, make straps stronger than most you could buy. Cotton twill folded upon itself resists stretching and fraying at the shoulder far better than a single layer ever could. Attach them at the top corners with several passes of your needle, back and forth through a small square of reinforcing fabric, for this is where an apron takes its hardest strain, day after day, and a weak attachment here undoes the whole garment. And now, across the body of the apron, add the pockets that make it truly useful. A deep central pouch for a phone or seed packets, cut from wide sections and hemmed at the top opening so it does not fray. Narrower vertical pockets at the sides for pruning shears, a trowel, a pencil, and if you have salvaged whole back pockets from old jeans, simply stitch them on as is, ready-made and instantly useful, exactly as with the tool roll. Every pocket, stitched to the apron body with the same small running rows, adds its own quiet layer of reinforcement to the cloth beneath it. Now let me give you the extra layers, the small refinements that separate a serviceable first project from a piece your grandchildren might still be wearing. First, strengthen the corners and the stress points before they fail, not after. Every apron and every tool roll has certain places that take punishment far beyond the rest. The top corners of an apron, this is where exactly the straps the reinforcement, the base of every pocket, where a heavy tool drags at the stitching, every time it is drawn out hardest. At these points, the difference before you consider the piece finished, add a small square or triangle of extra denim, let them layered beneath the surface fabric again when and stitch through with a dense cluster of extra rows, an X of stitching or several passes back and forth to hide every repair. When, a year or two from now, a corner of your tool roll begins to fray or a pocket seam starts to give, you do not discard the piece and start again. You lay a new scrap of denim over the worn spot, mismatched color and all, and stitch it down with a fresh row of sashiko, adding one more small patch to the piece's history. A well-used Boro garment in Japan might carry dozens of such patches, layered over 60 or 80 years, each one a small record of a hole that was met with thread instead of the trash. The piece does not become shabby. It becomes, quite literally, richer, thicker, stronger, and more evidently loved with every mend. There is no shame in a visible patch. There is only the shame of throwing away what a needle could have saved. Third, wash it like the workwear it is, and let the indigo age. Old denim does not need gentle treatment, quite the opposite. A firm wash in cold water keeps the stitching tight and the fabric honest, and the fading and softening that comes with years of hard use and washing is not damage, it is character. The same way a well-oiled tool handle darkens and smooths with the hands that have held it. Do not chase the crisp blue of a new garment. Let your tool roll and apron go, the soft silvered indigo of long service. That color in Japan has always meant this has been useful for a very long time, and there is no higher praise for a work garment than that. Let me tell you now about the apron on my own workbench, because it did not begin as one piece at all. Its oldest section, the base panel, gone the color of dusk, came from a pair of my own work trousers, worn through at both knees in the same summer I turned 60. My wife, rather than let me throw them into the rag bin, sat with them one evening and began the first rows of stitching, layering in a scrap from an old jacket of mine that had long since lost its zipper, and by the time she set down her needle that night, the beginning of this apron existed where two ruined garments had stood before. In the years since, I have added to it myself. It is, at this point, a pocket no longer from a really shirt, my too trousers, far gone to or my wife's stitching, or any single garment patch at all. Here, it is simply ours. When the old one finally wearable record of 20 after years of a shared household, mended together in the evenings, the way my grandmother's generation mended everything, without ever once thinking of it as a hardship. It was simply what love and thrift looked like, sewn into indigo cloth. And that is the larger truth beneath the needle and thread today. We have been taught, all of us, that a whole is an ending, that the moment cloth tears, its story is over, and a new story, bought at the store, must begin in its place. Boro teaches the opposite, and I believe it is one of the wisest things my people ever practiced, that a whole is not an ending at all. It is simply the place where the next chapter is stitched in. A tool roll or an apron built this way does not merely save you the $40 or $50 a new one would cost, though it does, and that money matters on a fixed income in a full life, same as anywhere else. It teaches your hands, and perhaps a grandchild's hands beside you at the lamp, that nothing worn out is finished, only waiting for the next layer, the next row of stitches, the next small act of care. That is mate nai, whole and entire, waste nothing, not the cloth, not the money, not the years of use still folded inside a ruined pair of jeans, and not the quiet, patient satisfaction of building something with your own hands that grows only stronger and only more yours with every mend. So tell me, in the comments below, where in this world do you live, and what worn denim is sitting in your closet or your rag bag right now, waiting for its second life? Old jeans, a jacket gone thin at the elbow, a pair of overalls your grandchildren have outgrown? Tell me your place and your cloth, because I read every message that comes to me, and I would dearly love to know who among you threads a needle tonight and lays the first sashiko row of a tool roll or an apron that might still be working 40 years from now. And the next time we sit together, I will show you what my grandmother did with the very smallest scraps left over from projects like this one. The odd triangles and slivers too small for any patch, gathered for years in a cloth bag by her sewing basket, until one winter she brought them out and showed me what 400 years of Japanese thrift can build from pieces most people would have swept into the fire. Until then, waste nothing.